Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags, and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Just remember all the good the purge does.
Good morning, everyone. It's May 26, 2020. How's everyone doing? I hope you're well. In a video either later today or tomorrow, I'll be talking about the religious beliefs of the ruling class. This is a subject that I've been trying to avoid for a long time, and it's becoming more and more unavoidable. So I'm going to be doing that and explaining to you how your churches are wrapped up in all this. And well, let's get started. Now, if you are a member of the armed forces, specifically the Army, Marines, and National Guard, if you are a member of law enforcement, you should quit your jobs right now. You're going to be asked or ordered to do some pretty unthinkable things here in the near future. The best thing you can do is walk away, because basically you're going to be used as cannon fodder. Do you think everyone's going to comply? Do you think some of your fellow former soldiers and officers, do you think they're going to allow these contact tracers and the vaccine people to inject anything into them? Do you think somebody like myself is going to allow this to happen to us and our family without major confrontation? Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, well, I got my whole life wrapped up into this pension, and if I quit, I don't get the pension. Well, your pension is already gone. You may appear on your computer screen that you have something there, but you don't. You don't have anything there. Why don't you listen to your humanity if you have any left? And I'm sure it will tell you exactly what I'm telling you. You need to walk away while you still can. So, I'm not going to read any whole articles to you today, but I will be touching on some of these headlines just to show you exactly where we're headed here. The arrival of the unavoidable pension crisis. As I just told you, the law enforcement people, your pensions are already gone. And I'm going to use this paragraph here. Currently, many pension funds, like the one in Houston, are scrambling to marginally lower return rates, issue debt, raise taxes, or increase contribution limits. The hope is to fill the gaping holes of underfunded liabilities in existing plans. Such measures, combined with an ongoing bull market and increased participant contributions, will hopefully begin a healing process. And this is not likely to be the case. As your townships, as your cities, counties, among other things, begin going bankrupt, people are going to lose your jobs anyway. A lot of you. And the ones that remain, you're going to be used as cannon fodder. Straight up. So your pensions are already gone. There's not going to be any economic recovery. Now, you might recall that we are a service-based economy, meaning we don't manufacture shit. At least, not a whole lot of shit, anyway. And this was done intentionally back when they signed NAFTA, North Atlantic Fair Trade Agreement. I lived in Flint, Michigan at the time, and Ross Perot was exactly right when he said that as soon as that agreement was signed, you would hear a giant sucking sound of the jobs leaving America. And it literally happened the next day. Those jobs never came back, as he said. They wouldn't come back. And here we are, I don't even know how many years later, but quite a few. And what was propping our economy up was retail and service, like hotels, massage parlors, tattoo parlors, among many other types of service-oriented businesses. They have created the conditions in which these jobs will never come back. We have giant corporations beginning to falter. Some of them will get bailed out, but not the ones that have any use to the public. Now, it does not matter what I think or what you think. Reality is what it is. And our reality is being diminished. Our quality of life is being diminished. And this is all by design. This is all meant to happen. You might recall in a video I did last week, I showed you the date on the CARES Act. You remember that? If you don't, you have a pretty short memory. It was dated for the first month of 2019. So, how would they know if, or that, a pandemic would occur within that year, or beginning in that year, unless A, it's not real at all, or B, they knew that China would be releasing this bug, along with Bill Gates. And I really believe it's the latter. I believe that this time around is to find the vulnerabilities within this virus and then tweak it. Tweak it to do more damage. Now, just this first paragraph here. Doesn't matter what you think. The reality we face is what we are seeing here on the ground. You know, like contact tracers being hired. You know, like Bill Gates on every mainstream media channel, with the exception of Fox, pushing his vaccines. The reality that Donald Trump is going to use the military to distribute these vaccines across the nation. You might recall last week I put a video up with a British fella who interviewed a GlaxoSmithKline whistleblower. You might recall that each sex or gender has their own vaccine, and each one of these vaccines contains sterilants. They're going to be injecting, and look, doesn't matter which vaccine they go with, those sterilants will be added to all of them. Reality is what it is, and our government will, as usual, muddle through with poorly thought out, politically correct solutions geared to kick the can down the road. I don't think they're going to be kicking this can of vaccination down the road any further. Doesn't my rooster have a big ass mouth? They will not be kicking this vaccine down the road any further. As soon as they can get it out by the hundreds of millions, tens of millions, they're going to start rolling it out. So, this brings me little delight. I have gone a bit quiet lately because of how events are slowly unfolding. The key word in this case is slowly. Rather than a wave washing over us, we are experiencing a troubling drip after drip of bad news, which a majority of the population has now come to accept as normal. And there's nothing fucking normal about any of this. Now, you can put makeup and lipstick on a big, fat, nasty pig, but she will still be a big, fat, nasty pig. Just like you can take a petrified turd and polish it until it's nice and shiny, but still a petrified turd. Just like a man can have his dick sliced in half, shoved it inside of him, and given hormones to look like a woman, but he's still a fucking man. And I myself have ignored pieces of our reality, such as the religious beliefs of the ruling class. Now, I have done videos on it, but it's been quite a long time. So I'm going to go ahead and do another, and so be looking for that. So, you know, millions of people, possibly billions, are ignoring their reality. They're, in their minds, sugarcoating things. And that is detrimental to them. So So there's that one. So why didn't the 1958 and 1918 pandemics destroy the economy? And they say it's because of the lockdowns. Well, here's the thing. That last article mentioned a slow drip of bad news. Allow me to point out that we've had a slow drip of bad news going for quite some time now. And those drips are occurring faster and faster. So this one is Ray McMacken, the Mises Institute. And everyone wants to blame this pandemic for the economic collapse, but we were well on our way before this pandemic. Media pundits, politicians are now in the habit of claiming it was the pandemic itself that has caused unemployment to skyrocket and economic growth to plummet. Keep in mind, we already had a rather high unemployment rate in the first place. We added 40 million to that, and that's not including the ones who were unable to file. Some have even claimed that the economic shutdowns actually help the economy because it claimed allowing the spread of the disease will itself destroy employment and economic growth. All these things were already being destroyed in the first place. So, the CDC estimates that as of May 18th this year, approximately 90,000 Americans have died of COVID-19. Adjusted for population size, that comes out to a mortality rate of 272 per million. So out of 1 million people, 272 perish. This is so far less than half of the mortality rate for the 1957-58 flu pandemic. In that pandemic, it is estimated that as many as 116,000 Americans died. And the population was much smaller at that time. And which makes it equivalent to 220,000 deaths in the United States. So, but we were well on our way to an economic collapse before all this was happening, right? We had Peter Schiff out there talking about it, Gregory Mannarino, just a lot of people. And what this has done is sped up the timeline for everything. So it's not just the lockdowns, people. We were well on our way to an economic collapse, and I point to the retail apocalypse as my proof. The many boarded up stores and other businesses. The mountain of debt, among other things. There's just a lot of stuff that pointed to the economic collapse. It was well underway. So there's that one. You want to hear irony? Mexicans are building a wall to keep American COVID carriers out. You hear that? As a matter of fact, we can't get through the southern border at all right now unless you are deemed essential on both sides. Seriously. It seems that we've been locked into our country now. At least 180 people were denied access at one border crossing into Mexico along the Brownsville stretch on Saturday. The municipality Matamoros, something like that, and other border towns in the area have reported an increase in COVID-19 cases. In quotes, there were a lot of people who immigrated here to Mexico. Dr. Remedios Zoldara, I don't know, man, who leads government efforts in Tijuana's health district. That was when we began facing a higher number of cases. So, Americans went ahead and jumped over there to Mexico, and it was to Mexico's detriment. So, and we've had Trump claiming and praising his border wall, saying that it had stopped the virus, which Donald Trump, like all other politicians, are he's a fucking lying sack of shit. So there's that one. Mexicans are building a wall to keep us out now. All right. And this is a message to the military once again. You do not fight for your country. If you did, people like Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Gates, all of them, would either be in prison or, well, you know. We did not celebrate Memorial Day. There's nothing to celebrate. Okay? The military is not your military. The military is the military for corporations. The military is not there to protect your civil rights. It is there to make unsafe places for our corporations to operate safe. And I point you to War is a Racket by General Smedley Butler as my reference. So, on Memorial Day, America remembers and honors those who died while serving in the military. It is altogether fitting and proper to ask, for what did they die? And I just told you what they've died for. Corporations. They went over to Afghanistan to protect not human beings, but rather poppy plants. And look, I'm not against poppy plants at all. A lot of you know this. And I think if we're going to be in the pharmaceutical business, those poppy plants should be grown here. We do have regions of the United States that would be suitable for growing these plants. A lot of gardeners already grow these plants here in the United States. So, again, it's not about the plant, it's about the amount of money that can be made from the plant. the pharmaceutical industry relies on poppies. And there's been multiple breakthroughs on as to how opiates can be made. They have found a painkiller multitudes stronger than morphine in the coffee bean. So, alright, so what did they die for? What's this person's opinion? Do the rationales offered by the military and government officials who decide when and how the U.S. go to war and embraced by the public, particularly those who lose loved ones, stand up to scrutiny and analysis? No, it does not stand up to the slightest bit of scrutiny. None of the wars have. And here we are. We have a military basically that protects the corporate giants of the world, particularly American-born ones, and not the citizens. I do not thank veterans for their service, because they have not served me. They have not served the public. But some will recoil, claiming it inappropriate on a day devoted to honoring the dead. And I really don't give a shit what one person or another deems inappropriate. I don't. However, it is because war is a matter of life and death for members of the military and inevitably civilians that its putative justifications be subject to the strictest tests of truth and the most probing of analysis, which not many people do. These people, all of them, died on behalf of American corporations and not on your behalf. You remember that. Because it is these people who are going to be aiding in the dispersal of these sterilant vaccines that create a whole nother strand of DNA in your body. There will be a clip added to this at the end, so you really, really want to watch this clip. Okay? Thank you, Proton Gary, by the way, for sending me that. So there's that one. No, there's no need to thank your veterans because they're not fighting for you. EU Green Agenda calls for eating bugs to save the planet. And these people, the only thing that will save this planet, the only thing, is to stop the polluting, to stop the nuclear power plants. That is the only way. Agriculture does not harm the planet, unless, of course, you're talking about a Bayer Monsanto type agriculture, in which case it absolutely destroys the ecosystem all around it, including the ecosystem within our bodies. See, they're trying to make this shit policy. And when something is made policy, what do you have? You have policy enforcers with guns making sure the slaves obey. So I ask you, how are these individuals not your enemy? Tell me in the comment section. Like I said, nuclear power plants, Bayer, Monsanto, Syngenta, Dow, all these corporations, the mega governments, they are why we have such bad pollution. Now, you want to talk climate change, then all we need to do is look at the sun to understand that our sun is the main driver of our climate. If there's more sun activity, it's hotter. If there's less, it's cooler. And I'm oversimplifying it, but that's basically it. So there's that one. They want you to eat bugs. And this is not only an EU thing, by the way. They want to do this here in the United States. What do you think all these meat packing plants and butcher places and processors, what do you think the shutdowns of those are about? It's about your submission. It's about you submitting to the new green hell. So there's that one. So, a person that many would argue has credibility says this. Like it was designed to infect humans, COVID-19 cell culture theory gained steam. A scientific study which found COVID-19 may have been a cell culture uniquely adapted for transmission to humans more so than any other animal, including bats, is gaining steam. The paper currently under peer review comes from Flinders University professor Nikolai Petrovsky, who has spent over 2 decades developing vaccines against influenza, Ebola, and animal SARS. He says his findings allow for the possibility that COVID-19 leaked from a laboratory, according to Sky News. The two possibilities, which I think, and this is in quotes by the way, the two possibilities which I think are both still open is that it was a chance transmission of a virus from an as yet unidentified animal to human. The other possibility is that it was an accidental release of the virus from a laboratory. Now, I'm going to stop right there. There's no accident about this. Again, I refer you to the CARES Act. That says it all. It says that they were well aware, January 2019, what was going to happen over the course of that year. And I'm only going to do this last paragraph here, okay? Because it's the most important. Professor Petrovsky, who is the chairman and research director of Vaccine Pty Limited, said COVID-19 has genetic elements similar to bat coronaviruses, as well as other coronaviruses. The way the coronavirus enters human cells is by binding to a protein. And I covered this back when this was starting out. on the surface of the lung cells called ACE2, that's a receptor, ACE2 receptor. The study showed the virus bound more tightly to human ACE2 than any of the other animals they tested. It was like it was designed to infect humans. So, again, this first run was a trial run to see what bugs they needed to fix in it. And these bugs are currently being fixed, every one they find, so that it is a super lethal virus. You don't believe me? You just wait and see. There's a couple here at SHTF plan that I'll point out here. The worst unemployment spike in U.S. history. 1 out of every 4 workers has filed for unemployment benefits in 2020. So, it doesn't matter that we're reopening the economy. They put the final nails in the coffin of our civilization. And from the ashes, they plan on building a whole new civilization. And guess what? We're not invited. But one good thing is coming out of this is Americans are rediscovering self-reliance to end their own enslavement. Government is not there to help you. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Republican government, a Democratic government, a democracy, a dictatorship, whether it be fucking fascist or communist, does not matter. No government is there to help you. They're all there to control you. That's it. In the aftermath of the government's response to the coronavirus outbreak, which has impoverished millions and destroyed the supply chains all around the world, Americans are at least taking some responsibility. Many are now taking to self-reliance as they've realized government is not there to help them. And this right here is why this is a test run. It's not lethal enough yet. So, this clip I'm going to put at the end of here, it is a clip from 6 years ago. Well, you know what? You'll just see. But it's well worth watching. Okay? Please stick around to watch it. Till next time, kill the state, live free.
Disease. It's a biological construct called MERS coronavirus out of the Middle East. It's the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. It's made its way into Europe to a certain extent, and eventually, because of air travel, it will reach around the world. It's another example of where inoculations or vaccines are being derived, or they're trying to derive for. That, again, I always like to go all the way to the end. What's the purpose? What's the goal? If you have a man-made, made or engineered virus, why was it created? Is it simply just to kill people? Well, that's one part of it, but if you go further and you go deeper than that, it is to get people to demand a vaccine, a shot, if you will, or a pill. Why would, if you're in a position of control, of power, of ultimate power, why would you want people to demand a vaccine? Well, it's because something's in the vaccine that you want people to then have as a part of their body. Well, what is in the vaccine that you want everybody to have inside their body? It is a DNA manipulator or modifier. I mentioned earlier third strand DNA. There is already, and you can find this on the internet, in existence, a third strand of DNA constructed of silicon. Again, we go back to the silicon chip in computers. The third strand is made of silicon and is also coated in gold. If you talk about nanotechnology and nano layers, this is extremely thin coating of gold down to a billionth of a millimeter of gold that is coating the silicon from which you are building a third strand of DNA. The purpose of the gold is to increase the surface area around this strand so that more information can be digitally imparted or programmed. You're essentially, what you're doing is you're creating a third strand of DNA. You are transferring that or imparting it into a person's body through a vaccine that that person's demanding because they're afraid of contracting MERS coronavirus or avian flu or whatever it may be. And so the government, if you will, or the powers that be sit back and they kind of chuckle when they say, well, we couldn't have forced people to take this vaccine or to take this hidden third strand of DNA. They would rebel against it. But if we create the problem and present the solution, people will demand the solution. Thus we achieve our ultimate goal of having this DNA in every person changed. Well, let's go deeper. What's the goal? What's the purpose? Yeah, you go around and change everybody's DNA. What do they become? They become a hybrid. The insidious part of this is that once a person is injected, almost immediately their DNA undergoes transformation. Almost immediately they lose all awareness of the fact that they've lost their independence, their ability to think on their own, to make decisions on their own, and to affect them on a moral level. Their moral independence, their beliefs, religious, moral, ethical, legal, all of those go away. If you remove the independent thought and that awareness that you've lost your independence is gone, what then do the powers that be do with these new forms of humans, hybrids? They can control them. They can turn them into a serf class. Not S-U-R-F, not surfers, but S-E-R-F, a class of slaves to serve the elite, to serve the Ray Kurzweils of the world who want to achieve immortality, but they need to have labor to manufacture, develop all of the technologies. And they have enough technologies now. The technology, the scientific world, if you will, has reached the level where they don't care about hiding it anymore. Their agenda is so far advanced, both politically, philosophically, their sense of morals, and technologically, that no longer are they worried about you and me as the serf class and the coming serf class. They're not worried about what we think. They're not worried about us rebelling. And in fact, we won't rebel, partly because right now we've been so dumbed down through a variety of mechanisms. But once people demand the virus and they truly are dumbed down to where they've lost that awareness that something's happened to me, now they can do what they want with us. They are achieving what I call the hive mentality, like a beehive. Worker bees, soldier bees, serving the queen. The queen, in my estimation, is this elite class that's in power, and it's not the politicians. Forget the politicians. This has nothing to do with Republicans, Democrats, Tea Party, Libertarians. It has nothing to do with political structure or classes. It has to do with the small group that is in